From the Startup Experts community, this is the Becoming Better podcast, and I'm its host, Jesse Fries. It's so great to sit down with you. I've been really excited to have this conversation. And, I've known you for a really long time. So it's amazing that we're finally sitting down for the first time for a Becoming Better podcast interview. Would you mind introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great to be here, Jesse. Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. My name is Chelsea Gregory. I am currently leading HR at Suki, and Suki is an ambient clinical intelligence application. So it's a layer that sits within healthcare, and we are focused on empowering doctors and giving them time back through, more agentic solutions and giving them time back in their days and taking care of their documentation.
Amazing. And I met you probably 5 or 6 years ago because Suki is also a client of mine at Sequoia, and I've gotten to know you really, really well. You are now, head of global HR. Is that your title?
Yes, currently. The
Yeah,
team
but when
is
you
growing.
started, when you
Mhm.
started, you were sort of first rung. So tell us a little bit about your journey at Suki and how you've, sort of grown into your current role and responsibilities.
Yeah. So I started at Suki in 2018, and that was actually the time that I joined Startup Experts as well. So I've had this parallel growth journey, and Startup Experts has actually been pretty critical for me in my career development. Prior to Suki, I was a teacher. I was teaching in Spain for 6 years. So Suki was one of these great, startup opportunity success stories where I got my foot in the door as an office manager and executive assistant and was able to learn and grow through a lot of HR processes and have grown professionally throughout the company to becoming into this position.
Yeah, I love that story. It's amazing. And congratulations again on, starting as an office manager and then growing into now leading, HR at a pretty impressive organization. Um, you shared a little bit about teaching in Spain, but I'm going to ask you another personal question. Like, what is one thing, and that might be it, but what is one thing that people don't know about you that you like to do personally?
On the personal side, whenever I can, I like to scuba dive.
No
And
kidding.
there's something about being, underwater. It feels extraterrestrial, out of your element, and, really awakens my sense of curiosity. It's very quiet, and I just like the exploring, and every dive is different. So that's what I like to do in my free time.
That's really cool. And not surprising, you're an amazing individual, and also not surprising that you were selected to be one of our 25 leaders to follow in 2025, which is why we're doing this short form conversation. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Uh,
It's amazing to get honored like that.
well, I mean, impressive. Wanted to ask you because this is a podcast or at least an interview about becoming better, and we love to share knowledge across startup experts. I know that you're leading up our AI efforts, so I also want to appreciate you for stepping up and being a member of our all volunteer leadership team and helping with our AI roundtables. And this might be the answer to the question, but like, is there one thing that you've learned recently that has helped you become a better leader, better teammate, frankly, better human?
It's funny going through the AI roundtables and hosting that every month, and experimenting with AI myself. We there's a lot of conversation within the community about what machines are going to be able to do for us. And so I've been really reflecting on, how do we show up in a more human way and how do we make that okay? And I think, Startup Experts is, a community that's full of impressive people. And I think, it's really easy to see, the accomplishments of everybody. But the human side was full of lots of mistakes and sometimes cringy moments, right?
Mhm.
And so I've been kind of finding ways where I can lean into that and lean into the learnings from that and accepting the humanness from it. And what I'm finding in the community, in leading these roundtables is, there's a lot of value in seeing, what isn't working for people just as much as finding out what is working. And the exposure to that has been really, really incredible.
Yeah, that's a great perspective of, making mistakes and the resilience and learning from them and really improving yourself over time. Great lead into another question or another area I'd like to chat about with you is, you know, can you share out a hindsight moment where you perhaps did make a mistake and, if you approached that again, you would go in a different direction?
The most recent one that comes to mind is how you show up when you make mistakes as a senior person within an organization, and how do you address that? So, in hindsight, I made a mistake in the way I showed up for a meeting. There were some data errors in what I had presented, and that's a really big deal. Um, I kind of just, reworked everything and kind of reshared everything. In hindsight, I wish that I would have acknowledged the mistake a little bit more, and acknowledged kind of what part of the process had failed and how I, would address it. And that's something that I definitely plan on doing in the future. But, again, a cringe moment that, I could have done better and learned from.
Yeah, good perspective. And it's that vulnerability, I think, in particular, when you admit to a mistake that, your team, particularly if they're partnering with you, will see that and receive it kindly. We all make mistakes. And so I think if you do admit and acknowledge, it'll all work itself out.
Yeah, the vulnerability for sure. And yeah, my takeaway of that is, being vulnerable is also, being authentic, and especially within HR, showing those vulnerabilities and that authenticity, I think, is a great way to model those behaviors and lead.
Got it. Yeah. No, thank you for that. And, 2026 is fast approaching. I really can't believe how quick we are getting into next year. Is there a new initiative or something that you're focused on that really excites you?
2026 is going to be a big year for Suki. We have a lot going on strategically, and we're uniquely positioned for a lot of growth, which is extremely exciting. It may sound just kind of like a blanket topic, but where we're going to be really focused on scale. We have a lot of headcount growth, both globally in the United States and India. And what does that look like for the team? I think we've invested in a lot of areas outside of the HR space within the company. So we're going to be really focused on the infrastructure and how do we support that scale. And how do we preserve the culture that we have? Because we have a lot of really great talent that are really focused on our mission, and we want to make sure that that's preserved.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on, as you scale, how do you make sure that your authentic and, incredible employee culture does scale alongside the organization?
Yeah, I think a lot of it will have to do with um, really defining what it is that we have that's so special, and really getting input from the team alongside that, and really finding the ways to commit to that, and really inject that into a lot of what we build. So, we'll be doing a lot of infrastructure. So, how do we think about the employee experience first? And what is it really that's unique to Suki that we want to make sure is preserved in all of those aspects? So, I think, we are an extremely employee focused company. So not losing sight of that, and then, what is the uniqueness and defining that, and making sure that that is pulled through everything that we do.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. Again, amazing to sit down with you. This has been a very brief but amazing conversation. Congratulations again for being selected as one of our 25 leaders to follow. in 2025. Um, Before we depart, is there any single piece of advice that you would share out to your peers within the community?
I would just say to the community, you're doing great. There's a lot going on. We are in the center of it all, in the thick of it. And I just want to acknowledge, showing up in the community and giving back any way that you can is not a small deal. It's a really big deal that you're taking your time and your energy to contribute within this community. And that's what makes it so special. So thanks. I just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate you sitting down with us. Thank you for listening to this Becoming Better with Startup Experts discussion. If you're interested in learning more about our community and perhaps joining, please visit www.startupexperts.us.